realized last night that I'm having I have a nerd conundrum, and I don't know how to solve it yet. So, I'm not an action figure person. Like, I'm saying this as we're sitting in Kapow Comics and, like, looking at all the action figures and stuff. By the way, if you collect action figures, come to Kapow Comics, they got you covered.
Yep.
But I'm not an action figure person.
Me either.
So I don't have a whole bunch of them. But I am a Mark Silvestri person. Love the Darkness, like Top Cow, everything that spun out of that. Like, he's my favorite of the Image guys. So last week when we were doing the show, I happened to glance over and I saw on one of the little racks that have the action figures on it, these little Witchblade and the Darkness action figures. So I came back and bought them. I don't know where to put them.
Because you're not going to take them out of the box.
No, I'm leaving them. Well, I'm leaving them in the cardboard and the plastic and everything. But I don't have. So, like, I have in my office, I have a china cabinet that I've repurposed to display, like, kind of cool nerd things. Like, I've got
curios.
That kind of thing. Well, no, this one's legitimately. Is that what? So this is a china cabinet. Is that what a curio cabinet is?
Well, it's not a china cabinet anymore. It's now a curio cabinet.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how that works. I'm certainly not the expert on these.
So this was Roger's, like, great grandmother's china cabinet. So, like, old school, like, has the shelves with, like, the little divot in it to keep the china over. So, like, old school china cabinet that I've made into, like, a display. And so I was redoing it last night, and I was just like, this doesn't work well. This does not work well for action figures. Everything is tipping over, and I don't know what to do with these really cool Mark Silvestri inspired Witchblade and Darkness action figures.
Is that a McFarlane toy?
No, it's
curious.
It's not. I forget who actually did them. So there's a few of them looking over here right now. They don't say McFarlane. They say Moore. More action somethings. I can't read them from here because I'm old and my eyes are shitty. But it's Top Cow and them, so it wasn't McFarlane. I wonder if they made a McFarlane line.
Seems natural that they would, but I don't keep up, so that's the first thing I thought is. Of course, I'm assuming those toys came out at the height of the boom, and at that time, McFarlane hadn't really gotten into toys yet.
Right. It's a conundrum. I don't know what to do with them. I don't want to just leave them in a box and set them in a closet somewhere where I can't see them either.
That's the thing about keeping them in the box is, you pretty much, what are you going to do? Tack them up on the wall?
Right.
I think about, every time I hear stories like this, I think when I was a kid, this new kid moved to the neighborhood, go to his house, and he's like, you like Star Wars? And I'm like, of course. What kind of question is that? And he's like, well, check this out. So he pulls out all these bins out of his closet, and it's all Star Wars action figures still in the box. And I was like, why are these still in the box? Because by that time, they were 10 years old.
Yeah. They're toys. You're supposed to play with them.
Yeah.
Like,
and
what are you doing, bro?
he's like, oh no, I've got the ones I've played with over here in this bin. These are the ones I'm leaving in the box because it's a collection. I was dumbfounded by that. I'd never heard of anything like that as a kid. I collected comics.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of, like, leaving toys in a box because they're collectible. Blew my mind.
No, I think
about that all the time if that kid still has those.
Yeah, no, I think about, those things too. But, so growing up, we didn't have, like, I'm not saying that we were, like, scraping dirt to eat or anything. We weren't destitute, but we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And we didn't have the option of buying two of the same
No,
toy.
we didn't either.
Like, if I had went to my mother or my father and said, hey, I want this toy to play with and I want this same toy to stick in the closet and never look at, they would have probably, like, backhanded me. So that would have never been a thing that would have happened.
No, nor did I. I didn't get, of course, like the expensive toys, we would get, which were Transformers. Transformers were the expensive toys. And, of course, we only got toys on Christmas and birthdays. We didn't get them any other time. So, I didn't have many because that's the only time I ever got them. And what was frustrating for me is my brother would break them because he was too young to play with the Grimlock, and he would break my Grimlock over and over again.
How many Grimlocks did you go through?
Oh, I didn't get any new ones. I got the old one glued back together.
Whip out the hot glue gun?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. This is episode 195, and we are back with you sitting, just outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, where we hang out at from time to time. I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And we are Craigless today. Our brother from another mother had one of those things that come around every year, celebrating birthday, those things. And so not only that, but as we've said before, he's also a pawpaw now. And so he is out gallivanting around doing family stuff, celebrating, having meals, cuddling babies, and just being a generally happy guy. So I want to take this opportunity once again to wish him a happy birthday. I know he had one, but you got to do it on the podcast or it doesn't count. That's how
make it official.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you're not in a real relationship till it's posted on Facebook. You got to make it Facebook official. Or that's what they say. I don't know. But so he's not with us this morning, but we're gonna do the best we can. And he's not here. We can kind of just do whatever we want. We can go crazy. Like talk about action figures and stuff.
I know. We're doing it.
But no, we're gonna probably stick to comics, I imagine. How was your week, man?
It was good. I'm studying, preparing for a new job in the bladder cancer realm. So I've been learning all about the bladder.
Nice.
And bladder cancer, and convincing myself I don't have bladder cancer as I learn all about it.
It's one of those things that you start recognizing symptoms.
This is something I do every time in medical sales, I train for a new product. I'm like halfway convinced myself that I have what I'm studying for. Yeah.
Bruh, okay, this is funny because this is timely. So about 3 days ago, I woke up in the middle, and I cooked some spicy food, and I went to bed and had some abdominal pains and stuff. I was like, okay, I just ate food with a lot of peppers and stuff. It's that. Wake up at like 3 a.m. and realize that no, I'm passing a kidney stone. Yeah. So this is the third one I've ever had, over the last 10 years. So it doesn't happen very often, and it was small, so I didn't have to go to the doctor or anything. But one of the things that I know that helps is when that's happening, I get in the shower and I crank up the heat, and it's just muscle relaxing, if anything,
okay.
and let the hot water just hit my whatever side I'm passing the kidney stone on. So I'm standing in the shower with the hot water, like scalding me, which is the way that's the way I take showers. Like it's going to melt your skin off or it's not good. And I'm going through my phone and I find this article as
have your phone in the shower?
Yeah. So just stand at the back of the shower, let the water hit my lower back, chill with my phone, doesn't get wet. So I live dangerously. Yeah. I'm a rebel.
Fascinating.
Yeah. That's the way I pass my time. I'm flipping through and I see this article that's like, hey, if you take this type of over-the-counter medication or something, it might be causing you to like have your abdominal organs shut down and cause pain. And lo and behold, this is a medication that I take regularly. So I'm just like, wait, what? At 4 a.m. while I'm having kidney stone and convincing myself that this over-the-counter medication that I'm taking is destroying my intestines.
Whew.
So yeah, that happened. So kind of the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mind game for me personally.
Dude, well, I'm just glad to know that my intestines did not shut down and that you don't have bladder cancer. That's a win. High five.
Yeah.
High five at that.
High five.
Ding, we touched the tips.
Yeah.
That's so, but yeah, that's how my week went, other than a whole lot of studying and legal stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But it's been good though. It's interesting stuff.
Nice. Excited about the new digs?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, definitely.
Very cool.
The first week out, I'm going to a conference in Phoenix. That'll be interesting.
Is this going to be the first big conference or is it a big conference? I'm assuming first kind of.
It's a regional conference. So some of the doctors I'll be calling on will be out there. Yeah, allegedly. So, yeah, fresh out of training, I'm going out there. I feel like I need a badge. Indicate such a thing.
Now, is this the first thing that you've gone to, like a big get-togethers that post-COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're requiring proof of vaccination, and they're going to require masks as well.
That's I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and and social distancing. If you have any kind of symptoms whatsoever, they're telling you not to come.
Stay your ass home.
If you got a runny nose, stay home.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been coughing, stay home, regardless of COVID vaccination status or test result. Yeah, so
I feel
it's just and it's weird doing these kind of things because you don't shake hands anymore.
Right.
So
Elbow
it's
bumps.
really weird to talk to people without shaking hands. I had my windshield repaired. Guy came out to the house, greeting him and everything, and not shaking hands. It's weird.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. Do we hug? What's-
Absolutely.
I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like, stay home because your nose is running and you're coughing should just be generally good advice, and maybe we shouldn't have waited till a pandemic hit.
That's you're not
happen.
wrong, but yet again, we live in the allergy cradle of the
That's
country.
Also,
So,
very true.
Craig would never be able to leave his home if that were the case. I mean, the man
That's
suffers
true.
from allergies every day of the year. Yeah. So what can you do?
Yeah, get little pollen filters for your face.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Well, I know it's been a week, and hopefully we've gotten some comics read. So I kind of see your little stack over there. I am curious to see what you snagged that you want to tell me about this week.
My short stack consists of, to start with, from Fantagraphics, this series that I continue to talk about, Red Room by Ed Piskor. Again, these are all standalone stories. They have a common overall, I guess you would say backstory or theme, but each issue is an independent story.
Yeah.
So you can pick up any one of them and, not be, quote, lost or have to catch up or whatever. And these continue to fascinate me.
Right.
I mean, this is a great series. I can't get enough of this. I hope this goes on for a long, long time. Also, I read, and I alluded to this in my What's on the Menu, but I read number 2 of Trial of Magneto from Marvel Comics. The writer is Leah Williams. The artist is Lucas Wernick. Colors by Edgar Delgado. And letterer is Clayton Cowles. This is my new favorite, one of my new favorites in the X storyline. No doubt about it. Highly recommend this book. If you have not been on the X storyline or you've been following it, a little bit, whichever, I recommend getting on it. And then finally, to wrap up my short stack, once again, I'm talking about Mark Russell. Is Second Coming from Ahoy. Also on this, the layouts is Richard Pace. The finishes is Leonard Kirk. Colors Andy Troy. And letters are Rob Steen. Did you read this one?
I haven't yet. It's like 2 books away from reading it read.
This one in particular has some interesting takes on heaven and some interesting takes on the idea of if God is all powerful, why doesn't he just fix everything?
Yeah.
Touches on those 2 subjects. So that was fun, as it has been the whole time.
So the only books out of your short stack that I've read is The Trial of Magneto because, I'm a Wanda mark, so I just moved that one up. That book made me cry. Like, there's without spoiling anything, because it's not what we do on our short stacks, there's 2 panels in there where, I'll just say it involves, involves Wanda's brother.
Yeah.
And another character that is, coming to comfort him a little bit, and just what is said there. I was reading it this morning and very unexpectedly just kind of like my stomach just jumped up in my chest and I could feel water welling up in the back of my brain. And I did not expect it, but it got me. In 2 little panels. It's such a good book. And I'm not sure who his art rep is, but I need to find out because I want to see what those pages are going for. Because I might want to own one. I might need to own one. It's more of a need.
I was about to say, I think you already know if you want to or not.
Yeah. I mean, I have to decide if I can live without it or not.
Yeah.
But so I'll jump in my short stack. Give you three little things that I've read this week. Do you remember a few weeks ago I told you about a Tony Sandoval book?
I do.
Yeah, and just off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was called because that's nice. Well, I did some digging on Tony Sandoval and found out some other stuff that he has written, and I got his book called Water Snakes, which is a precursor to the book I told you about a few episodes ago. And it's kind of the same world. It's kind of the same feel to it. Very much coming of age, semi-adolescent story. With the backdrop of there being another world, other worlds behind some type of ether that come through, and these young characters are pushing back against things. It's obviously a metaphor for death and for friendship and all these other things, but done really, really differently than I think what we've seen before. Just amazing artwork. The colors and the way that everything is depicted is badass. And in this particular one of the girls throws up a black octopus. If that gives you an indication of where they're going with this, kind of like bringing some Lovecraftian themes in there. It was fun. In the middle of my short stack is a book that I snagged. I really don't know how I ended up getting this, but I got it, and that makes me happy. It's from the Rock and Roll Creators series, and it is Judas Priest. I am a big Judas Priest fan, so I tend to pick up just about anything I can find with Judas Priest on it. So I think our local comic shop proprietor knew that. And hooked me up with it. Again, this is Rock and Roll Biographies presents Judas Priest, written by Michael Oshinker. Matt Ingstein did the pencils. Vic Moya was the inker, and John Hagman did some of the lettering and layouts of it. It's really cool. No new ground being broken here. I really, at one point, I kind of just stopped reading it because it's kind of rehashing just very condensed Judas Priest history. And I've read the Judas, I've read the rock bios, and I've read Rob Halford's biography and everything. So it wasn't telling me anything I didn't know, but it was just cool flipping through and seeing some of the images and seeing Judas Priest being drawn. And you will be excited about this because this is actually a twofer. And in the back of the book, there is a story about a band that I think you've heard of them. You might like them. Samhain.
What?
Yeah. So I'm going to flip that over and let you see that for a little bit and check that out. So you get kind of the same thing with Samhain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And completely out of left field.
I've rendered Matt speechless.
Wow.
Matt's now going to change up everything he was planning on doing.
Why was this included? Is
I have no
fascinating
idea.
to me.
And they're apparently doing another one because in the back of the book it says that the next issue is going to focus on Lemmy. So we're going to get some Motorhead in the next issue. And I don't know if they're going to keep doing that twofer thing or not, but I'm going to keep an eye out and see when those things come out because I like this. Like, regardless of with Lemmy, I haven't read any Motorhead bios, and with Samhain, I haven't read a lot of the the Danzig, if there's any the books on Danzig or the books on Misfits or Samhain or whatever. So I did read that one, and that was cool. For somebody who just enjoys the rock and roll history of things, check this out if you don't have it. Go see if you can find it. And then last but certainly not least on my short stack, I love Cullen Bunn. For somebody who is such a prolific writer as he is, he doesn't bat 1,000, but considering the amount of books that he puts out, the significant portion of them are just really, really good. And so whenever I see a book, I try to jump on it. So he has a book out from Boom Studios right now called Basilisk. It's him, Jonas Scharf, and Alex Guimarães coming back together. They had kind of a book that they did a few years ago that took place in New Orleans that was kind of a mix between a drug story.
Bone Parish.
Yeah, Bone Parish. It was a mix between drug dealing and also mafia and also witchcraft. And that was cool. So when they got together for this book, I thought it was interesting and I wanted to see. And I think we talked about the first issue of this maybe together, or one of us did. In this particular story, there are beings that are alike to gods, except each of them have these really insane powers that are based on the five senses, and they can control people and destroy people and do whatever. Well, one of the five is turned on the other ones, and there's a human that found out the secret and that they killed some of her family, and so they are just setting them up. It's like, let's go fight these four gods, kind of a situation. It's really fun. I really like Jonas Scharf's artwork. Some of it has a painterly feel. Not nearly as much of a painterly feel in this book as it was in Bone Parish, but still very, very cool. Really, really great action scenes, and just that kind of like weirdness that you get from a Cullen Bunn story, where that he mixes really incredible action and very much real world elements to the preternatural. And the supernatural. Yeah. For him, it's a win. So shout out to Cullen. I'd love to get him on the show to talk about some of his books sometimes. Just kind of fanboy out. So that was my short stack. That's what I got read this week.
Did you ever read back in the, I guess it's the late 80s, early 90s, the unauthorized biography rock comics?
No, I've heard of them, but I haven't ever even seen them in the wild.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of those things I would love to find.
Yeah, they're fun. You know, you really got to note the unauthorized part.
Right.
It's the dramatic retellings of, you know, I remember when I read the Metallica one, the dramatic retellings of why Dave Mustaine got kicked out of the band were pretty funny. It's just like, you know, but the art's black and white comics.
Yeah.
Well done stuff. I mean, I loved them as a kid. It was fascinating stuff as a kid, but, yeah, those were a big deal for a while. The same company did those. If I have this right, did Carnal comics about porn stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were a little harder to find.
That would, well, they're on the shelf where you can't reach them. So I didn't read the comics, but I was always a big fan of, like, you know, unauthorized rock and roll magazines as a kid. Like, I would always pick up, like, Revolver and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, every once in a while you go into a store that you don't tell your parents about, and you find these other magazines that's, you know, the truth of rock and roll history and the dark secrets of somebody's drug habits and this, that, and the other, and what are they doing on tour, and you get that and you read, you know, it's just like the National Enquirer. It's all made up bullshit, but it's fun to read about these rock and roll guys.
Yeah.
So,
I always just read the interviews. I don't think I'd pick up the Revolver, Metal Hammer. There's a big one I'm forgetting about. I just read the interviews.
So I always picked up Guitar World for that same reason. You know, I fiddled with the guitars. That's weird to say. I messed around with the guitar as a kid, but I never really got good enough to do anything out of Guitar World. But I would just grab it to see interviews with, you know, they did, you know, Zakk Wylde and Dimebag doing interviews together and stuff like that. Really great interviews in that magazine. Yeah. So I don't know why I got. Because I don't have time to read anymore. That's why I got out of doing that.
Well, and you got to find magazines,
right?
A little bit challenging.
Dude, I think Barnes and Noble's even getting rid of their magazine section now. That was what was rumored a few months ago. Like, and actually, if I think about it, I think they already have. I think Barnes and Noble's magazine section is just gone.
I haven't gone into Barnes and Noble in quite a while.
I go more now that we have the record player. Because the Barnes & Noble close to the house, they've got like a record section.
Oh, that's right, they do, yeah.
And so I'll go in there and just look for, you know, because it's, you know, like on my way home.
Yeah.
I'll pull in there and see what they have. Not a big metal section, not a big hip-hop selection, surprisingly. A lot of smooth jazz. And Lady Gaga. They have a lot of Lady Gaga.
That's funny.
All right, that's the show. Let's just go home. That was it.
Oh.
No, just kidding. Now I just want to go to Barnes & Noble after we get through. So we got together, as we always do, and we decided to read the same book and give some feedback on it, give some back and forth on it, kind of let you guys know what we thought about it and let each other know what we thought about it and put our heads together and see if we can't figure this whole sequential art thing out. As we always do, though, I want to give everybody at home who's listening to this a spoiler warning. Because we don't want to, you know, this is a new book. It came out last Wednesday, and we don't want to spoil that experience for you if you haven't read it. So if you needs to, and I think you do, go pick up Primordial #1, or even if you already haven't, you haven't read it yet, just grab it. You know, spend about 15 minutes. It's not a slow read. You'll easily knock it out pretty quick. And check it out. Now, this is, like I said, Primordial #1, written by Jeff Lemire with art by Andrea Sorrentino and colors by Dave Stewart. I unsurprisingly liked this book a lot. You know, I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino and all the work that they've done before. You know, this was the book I told folks to go grab last week. And, you know, their Green Arrow stuff, the book, I suck with names, the Black Barn book that they did, which is not the Black Barn, but centers around the Black Barn that they just wrapped up and got through doing.
Gideon Falls?
Gideon Falls. I don't know why I can't remember names today. I need to go take brain medicine or something.
Brain medicine. Yeah, let me know when you find that brain medicine.
Go get a little bottle. It probably also shuts down your internal organs.
I bet somebody on the internet will sell you something called brain medicine.
It's probably horse dewormer.
Yeah.
But what did you think about this, man? Because you're not nearly as big of a mark for Jeff Lemire, I think, as I am, and I think, like, I'm curious to know because I think you're more objective about your take on this stuff. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I have read a lot of Jeff Lemire stuff, and I've liked a lot of it, and I've read some stuff of his that just didn't do it for me. Mm-hmm. I've never read anything of his that I thought was done poorly.
Right.
There was just something I just didn't care for. this is a good example of something I think was done well, but just didn't grab me.
Okay.
It was easy to read,
Yeah.
easy to follow. Everything I felt like it delivered 100%. Sorrentino's art is pretty captivating in this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty damn creative, and I mean, it's something else. I mean, I really appreciate the art on it as well. But frankly, I don't know, the story just does not do anything for me. And I have no justification for how I feel.
I don't know that you need to justify it though.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so if it's just one of those things that doesn't grab you, it just doesn't grab
Yeah.
you. And like we always say, that's not an indication on whether or not the story is quote unquote good or well done. It's just some things entice us more than others.
Yeah.
You know? So people sitting at home are like, well, what is the story? Tell us about it. So the story takes place in the Cold War era, right? So you're looking around from the 1950s to the early 1960s when the space race was happening between us and the U.S. I say us, the United States and the USSR. This, Southern Fried Geekery didn't have a lot to do with this, so it wasn't really us. And as probably I'm assuming is common knowledge, when both of these countries, both of the governments were testing out things and trying out rockets and really trying to breach the stratosphere, they were using animals to do so. The Russians famously sent in a small dog out to space. I think that was the first living creature to escape orbit was the dog. I may be wrong on that, but kind of in similar time, the United States sent monkeys out into space. This whole thing, let's take a living creature and see how they handle the lack of gravity and everything else. Does the heart explode? What happens? Because we didn't know. We had no clue. I mean, everything was theoretical until we breached the stratosphere. And that's really what the book kind of centers on. And it kicks off really in 1961 down in Cape Canaveral. And this kind of, I call him an engineer, call him a scientist. He's a little bit of everything. He's a doctorate. His name is Dr. Donald Pembroke. He gets contacted by NASA, and they're like, hey, we need you to come down to Florida and work on some stuff for NASA. We're not going to tell you what it is. And so he's excited. He's going to get to, this is the phone call he's waited all his life for. He's going to be able to make a difference, going to be playing into the space race. He's going to be part of the group that elevates humanity beyond the globe. Except when he gets down there, that's not what's happening. Something's gone wrong. And they're shutting the space program down. They're just kind of done with it. The monkeys that they sent into space died. And he gets down there and they're like, well, no, we called you down here because of your level of expertise and your intelligence. And we want you to go through all of the data, all the paperwork, and all the equipment and find what, you tell us what you think has, governmental or military applications. And everything else we're scrapping. And we've kind of got 4 days to do this. So sorry you weren't misled. We didn't tell you what was going on, but sorry your assumptions weren't reached. But, here's a box of stuff and, go through it. And yeah, sorry. And he's disappointed, right? Because this is not the news he wanted to hear. But as he's going through and looking at these things, he finds, he's actually given a box of papers. And they are, it looks like little EKG graphs. How you go to the hospital, I think they're EKGs. My husband's the medical person, not me. But they show the heart rate and stuff like that's came off of the graphs. And, he kind of looks at them and is like, oh, these are from the monkeys that we sent into space. And this is just another disappointing thing because they're dead. And then he starts looking closer. And he looks at the time signatures on them. And the time signatures are from, 2:47, in the afternoon or in the morning or whatever, which is weird because the monkeys were reported dead 10 minutes before that. So there shouldn't be any signs of life. That these should be flat lines. And he keeps going through them, and it just gets longer and longer, and then things aren't adding up. So he has questions, and. Like any good scientist does, he reaches out to his superiors. He goes up the chain of command, which in this case is a general, and he's like, "Hey, I found this information out. This is weird. I don't know what to do with it, and I don't know who to call." All of a sudden, the phone goes dead. Like the general hangs up on him. He argues with him and just basically tells him to go back to work, and then cuts everything off. Well, sometimes when you blow the whistle, bad things tend to happen. He gets back to the office the next day to keep going through stuff, and they won't let him in the building. They have shut him out. He is blacklisted, and is being sent home. Because he rattled the cage. One might think. He goes to get into his car, Dr. Pembroke does, and it's that spooky 007 moment where he looks in the rearview mirror, and there is a shadow-cladded figure sitting in his back seat and just tells him to drive. Now, this seems very, one might say, as the kids would, this is sus. This kind of seems like maybe it's a bad thing when strangers show up in your car and start giving you directions like he's being kidnapped or about to be murdered. But fortunately, this is more of a benevolent type of agent or secret spy person who's totally not going to murder Dr. Pembroke. We don't really know who this person is, and we can assume he's KGB, and in fact, Dr. Pembroke assumes he's KGB, but we have no real clue. He's a good spy, so he doesn't really say who he is. But he drops some more information on Pembroke, and he says, I know what you found. There's more to this story, and you can't stop digging. Like NASA and Russia, the KGB, everybody, they're keeping secrets. Here's what really happened. And there's this big cover-up and spy games happening with this that is really going to impact. They aren't through with the space race. Something has happened that has scared them away from it. They didn't do this willingly. And so what he tells Dr. Pembroke is that when these animals, got shot up into space, the dog on the Lakia and the monkeys on Sputnik, they didn't die. They were taken. Bum, bum, bum. There's something in the atmosphere on the other side of the void that made these animals disappear, and no one knows what it is, and it has shooketh the two major countries to their core, to the point that they have given up something that they had based everything on. All of the 60s. It kind of branches off from what we know as what the 60s would be, with the space exploration and moving through and getting to the moon. In this world, it put them off, and they don't know what's going on, and they want to get to the bottom of it. So I'm excited about this. I really enjoy what Jeff Lemire does when he's playing with like different realms. You saw this in Gideon Falls, where he started taking not only the story but working with Sorrentino to show you mechanically on the page, like the blending of worlds and these different spheres and the multiverse, and doing it in a really cool way. And you see this a little bit in Sorrentino's artwork, where he's showing you the animals, going through some type of invisible barrier that just on the other side, it just degrades and falls apart into this just color bomb of psychedelic. I don't really know how to describe it. It's something akin to, a blend of paint and acid. So, and there's a really cool nod to, things like Pink Floyd and the prism as he draws this triangle and shows the animals shooting through this barrier, and then the light refracting on the other side of it into just blackness. In fact, I thought it was really cool that on that page you actually look down in the corner and Sorrentino has signed it. He says Sorrentino after Pink Floyd and Thorgensen. Mm-hmm. That was cool. I had just a big smile on my face. I also I like spy stories too, and this seems like it's going to be a mix of it's Lemire and Sorrentino dabbling in this kind of almost 007, almost clandestine secret agent, government intrigue, kind of thing, mixed with him flipping the script on history, and I'm really excited about that because I enjoy. And this is where I have a hard time being objective, like I was saying earlier, because I really do think that Jeff Lemire is one of the most important comic creators. I mean, this is Caleb's opinion. I think he's one of the most important comic creators working today. Like he's doing things. He is one of the most capable and has the most breadth of ability in writing than most comic creators. And that's not a knock on most comic creators. Amazing comic creators. He can kind of do everything. And he is changing, I think, the way, not as impactful as some of the big changes in the books in the past, but I think he is changing the way that we read and we look at comics, just in the way that he does things and the mechanics of it, him and Sorrentino both. And that's exciting, but I want to see what he's going to do by the end of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's, as far as the story goes, that's where I'm at with it. I think it's, like you said, the political intrigue is there. The spy story and the governmental intrigue is there, and the mechanics of the science that he's going to put in a language that like I can understand it. Somebody who's not a physicist, somebody who doesn't have, I've got a college background in science, but I don't understand a lot of things. Putting it in a way that it's digestible to somebody like me, that's exciting. Like I feel like I'm going to be entertained and I'm going to learn things, and get a base knowledge of this like theoretical physics world that we don't know a lot about. That's where I'm at with it. What'd you pick up anything on it?
No. Like I said, it was easy to read. Story was easy to follow, but I don't know. It's just the subject matter, just not. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would definitely be worth checking out issue 2 to kind of see. This story obviously was introduction and setup, and it finished. It wrapped the last couple of pages. Last page specifically leads you to believe that issue 2 is really going to shed a lot more light on what's to come. So even though I'm not just super into the book, I very well may check out issue 2. I'm still on the fence about it just before I guess I make a more permanent decision where I'm going to stay on the book or not, because Lemire's. I mean, he's written so many good, great stories, actually. It's like, I don't, kind of doubt myself to stop at the first issue.
Well, the thing with a writer like Lemire, and like you said, first issue specifically, is you can almost trust that Lemire is going to flip the script on you. He's going to throw you a curveball fairly early, at least by the end of the first arc, because so you're talking about Gideon Falls. When I started reading Gideon Falls, after those first few issues, I had a completely different story and vision for where he was going with it than what we got. And by the end of it, he just he defies your expectations. So that's where I'm not even going to pretend to be objective about the stuff. Like I see it and I'm just kind of amazed and mesmerized by it because I absolutely love it. And I absolutely love the art on this. Sorrentino stuff, I love it. And in some sense, I shouldn't love it, if that makes sense. Because we've looked at art before that is very, it's photorealistic. It takes what looks like a real picture and it degrades it. It covers it up, digitizes it and everything. We've seen some of that. And that's kind of what he's doing here, Sorrentino. But he's doing it in only the way that Sorrentino can. In the way that he almost, it looks like he takes a photocopied picture, and then plays with it and manipulates it. Throws a whole lot of texture on there, and gives you just enough to feel. And there's artists who do that I don't like it, but it's almost so masterful here that it just, like you said, it's mesmerizing. Like you can just get lost in these pages. And I think a lot of it is the angles and his perspectives that he puts on things. And he did something in one of his previous books where he looked like he drew everything through a fisheye lens, and you don't get that here, but you get a whole different vibe of what he's doing. And it just is really great. It almost has a, it's like he's taken what David Aja did in a book like Seeds and just like fed it meth and just took it and just went completely, just cranked it up to 11. And then, because he is just friggin' masterful, he throws us a curveball at the end of the story and he flips the art style on us. And so these last few pages where he's showing us the other side of the quote unquote void, it's almost got a Frank Quietly vibe to it.
I thought, wow, this looks like Frank Quietly.
I actually went back and checked the credits page to see if if Frank Quietly's name was like somewhere on here.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that Sorrentino could do this. I've never seen him do this type of art before.
Yeah.
I know he's a talented man, but, and I know he's incredibly talented, because you don't get to do the way that you don't do the kind of art, the kind of rendering, and the kind of the product that you see him do both in this book and some of his past work without being talented, without having a fundamental knowledge of how to draw and the use of detail, but to just drop these straight up Frank Quietly-esque pages on us at the end of it, my jaw hit the floor. Like, I was reading it and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it came out of left field. And that was a nice little treat. I mean, besides the fact that I also, monkeys make me happy. And they're just showing the monkeys conversing and meeting the dog on the other side. That part's cool. And so to see where we're going to go from here, and how this is going to turn out to be almost like anthropomorphized as far as this side of the void goes, where the test animals are communicating with each other on some level, and drawn in Frank Quietly's in a style that looks a lot like that. Like, okay, like, you got my money.
Yeah,
give me that. I want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
I had no idea Sorrentino could do that, and just completely elevated my already really high opinion of that movie.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm definitely going to check it out and stay on it. I'm curious.
Yeah.
It has piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
And when my curiosity is piqued, I got to have more. I needs it.
Yeah.
So that's Primordial number 1. High recommendation. I think from the both of us.
Yeah.
So, go pick it up, kids. Put it on your list. It's good for you. It's like brain medication. When you take your brain medication.
Brain medicine.
Well, it was kind of timely too. So you know how the universe throws weird things, and it seems like they're connected somehow, but there's no way they could be. So I'm flipping through the Twitters this morning, and I see this after reading this again just to make sure I can talk about it. And I see this post that our friend Wendy has either liked or shared or something else. Well, this guy, I don't know who he is. His grandmother always told them that she was a secretary in World War II. And she would never really say what all she worked on or anything. She was a secretary. She went to her deathbed saying, hey, I was just a secretary, worked in the military during World War II. That's all I did. His mother asked her, it's like, Mom, were you one of the code girls? And she was like, no, I wasn't. I couldn't do that. That wasn't everything. And they'd always question her about it because she was very vague about what she did and who she worked for. After she passed away, I think recently they were going through some papers and they found a piece of paperwork that was a commendation. And yeah, Grandma was a full-fledged code girl.
Huh, wow.
For the United States military in World War II that was breaking codes.
Wow.
Working, some top secret agencies. And I was reading that thread and it reminded me of this book because you see some of the, behind the scenes clandestine governmental operations that's happening here. So I started reading the thread and all these other people were talking about it. It's like, yeah, no, my grandpa would never tell us what he did. And so years later we found out that he was doing all of this thing. Like his own wife, didn't know. This one guy popped on there and was like, yeah, I've reached out, done everything I can to get any type of paperwork from the government on where he was at and what he was doing after we found out this information. And they said that it still wasn't declassified yet, which is kind of a confirmation in itself. Mm-hmm. And so just reading through all of those things and seeing how all of America's spies, and all of America's secret, really smart secret people just lived these lives and had these families who had nothing and no idea. And then to read a book where, the government covered up weird things about space exploration, stuff like that. That was a really cool little moment in time this morning. Just got my brain functioning and spinning. So it was good times. Well, tell me about something you read this week, brother, or just tell me about Sam Hain.
We could do that. Have you ever listened to any Sam Hain?
Yeah.
I love Sam Hain. That first album, Initiative, is amazing.
Yeah.
Man, I love Sam Hain. I can't get over how random it is. Scanning through the first couple of pages, it's because the writer went to a Sam Hain concert.
Yeah.
As a kid. That's fascinating. Wow. Yeah. So the book I'm going to talk about is, once again, I'm dipping back into the 90s.
Oh, yeah?
And specifically, This was a book that I picked up in the 90s based on the cover from Image Comics. This is Prophet.
Oh, nice.
From, what would become, or what at the time, I should say, because I think it already had become Extreme Studios. Yeah, Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios. This is Volume 1, number 5 from 1994. I picked up number 4, because I brought both of them. Let me back up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up Prophet issue number 4 based on the cover. This is the first artwork that Stephen Platt had done for this issue.
Okay.
And this cover absolutely fascinated me. I actually have a poster of this cover.
Nice.
I don't know where I got it, but as a kid, I got this poster, and it stayed on my wall through high school, through college, and didn't come down until I moved, and I have it rolled up and stored with the rest of my posters somewhere.
That's actually incredibly cool. I wish I had some of my posters back from when I was a kid.
I kept them all.
That's badass.
Yeah, they're on a roll in the closet. So this issue number, look up Prophet 1994, number 4, the Stephen Platt cover is absolutely amazing. Stephen Platt was, Rob Liefeld pulled him over from Marvel's Moon Knight book. That was his first book. His art revitalized Moon Knight. Moon Knight was, it's one of these stories where a series was about to be canceled. The numbers on it sucked. Stephen Platt's attached to it. Numbers start going up immediately, starts doing much better. Rob Liefeld threw a lot of money at him, gave him a Camaro to come over to Extreme Studios, start working for him. And so he did the cover for number 4. The interior artwork is done by Dan Panosian.
Okay, yeah.
Or Panosian, however you want to say his name.
I've always said Panosian, but...
Yeah, Panosian.
Yeah.
So when I opened up this issue and saw the internal artwork, I was profoundly disappointed. I hated Dan Panosian back in the 90s. Absolutely hated anything he did. His artwork looked like a bad Rob Liefeld impression.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny about that is this is another one of those instances where an artist continued to work and grow artistically. I love Dan Panosian's art today.
Yeah.
I wish he did a lot more stuff today because it's his artwork. He's one of my favorites. Usually he's only doing covers these days. Mm-hmm. But back in the day when he was working for Extreme Studios, it's rough to look at.
Yeah.
But hats off to him for continuing to work and becoming absolutely excellent at what he does.
Well, and I think you were right about. I think I'm trying to figure out how to say this, qualify it. I think he was trying to be a Rob Liefeld knockoff. There were a lot of people, or just that kind of like style. I think there were a lot of artists that instead of just following through in what they wanted to do and in what they were naturally good at, they tried to do something that was more commercially viable. And you got a lot of bad art at the time.
I can't
say that that's true. That's just me speculating. But there was a lot of people who fell into that boat.
So issue number 5, Stephen Platt did the internal art as well, and he penciled and inked this issue. And I was just fascinated by his artwork, and it's still incredible. The amount of detail that goes into every page of this is absolutely fascinating to me. This is captivating cartoon work.
Right. And it's one of those things you really can't explain it without actually seeing. I mean, I don't know how you... Yeah.
It's amazing to look at. Just the bullet casings alone in each panel. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And how long it took him to do this issue, I cannot begin to guess. Of course, Image books were famous for being not on schedule.
Right.
I can only assume this was one of those.
Yeah.
Later on, he didn't ink and pencil his own work for very long. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he can't, with the amount of work he puts into each page, it's physically impossible to stay on task. Right. So somebody else started inking. Frankly, when, another inker came on board, I think it actually looked better. Not a dramatic difference, but I think when he got another inker, it helped. Even though I love when he inked his own stuff. So this story, this prophet character in this story, he's hooked up to a VR machine by a government entity that's trying to mine his brain for technological information that they can weaponize. And in this story, they're putting him in different war scenarios to see how he reacts to said war scenarios. They put him in World War II, drop him in behind enemy lines with no weapons as Germans are marching through, so they can see how he reacts, categorize the information. The only person on his side is a government, what's the word? Soldier. I'll just call him Jackson Kirby. Yeah, Rob Liefeld.
Yeah,
a diehard Jack Kirby fan, so created a Jack Kirby character in the timeline. It's just funny. Smoke cigars, the whole bit. So anyway, Jackson Kirby's the only good guy in the story amongst these government dirtbags that are mining poor Mr. Profits.
It's almost like there's a metaphor there.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So anyway, this issue goes on as they're putting him in these virtual scenarios. Eventually, what appears to happen is his brain takes over the VR software, and they're now looking into what appears to be his memories, but they're not really sure. And it shows a particular violent episode that happened apparently during Vietnam, where he's dropped in on a civilian village, and due to the nature of the Vietnam conflict, he's wiping out the civilian village.
Right.
He's in kill mode. And during his gunning down of this village, he murders a pregnant woman. And then immediately within this VR display, his father shows up, who is apparently a priest. And Prophet realizes what he's done and flatlines. They're getting ready to haul his body off as a complete loss. Of course, he comes to, breaks out via Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, and tears his way out of said government complex. And so now he's on the run. Now he's on the loose, and this government entity is chasing him, and that's where the series continues. Is he and Jackson Kirby has had enough of them using his guy for said ways, so they team up, and they're now both on the run, and the series continues. The story is not exactly going to stick with you as compelling nature. It's very simple, as Rob Liefeld stories are. Also, Rob Liefeld stories, it's government versus the quote hero. But the Stephen Platt artwork is so unique and hella dynamic. I mean, it's crazy dynamic. It's fascinating to look at. The artwork is something to experience because it is what it does. It's so unique. I was fascinated by it as a kid.
He didn't waste any space on the panels.
It's amazing.
Poured things into there.
It's amazing to look at, and he didn't stay on the series just very long, unfortunately.
Right.
Interestingly enough, Rob Liefeld later said, he had a hell of a time keeping him on schedule. But at one point, he was paying Stephen Platt $40,000 per issue.
Jesus. In the early 90s, that was...
Yeah.
Huh. So, full nerd disclosure. Never read Prophet.
Oh, I'm sure very few people have.
Well, no, I want to. I mean, I listened to, number one, you talking about it. Our friends on other podcasts have talked about it. It's always been something I want to do. I need to go back and check it out. But in hearing about it, and this isn't a knock, it's just kind of a statement. There's actually, I think it's kind of cool. There's so much that he pulls from other comic stuff, like we were talking about. So the Jack Kirby stuff, the metaphor that involves there. You were talking about the going to the village and murdering the pregnant woman. That immediately puts Watchmen in my brain, and bringing the Alan Moore aspect to it. So it's neat to see how in that time he was taking all of these things that were So I mean, the Jack Kirby thing had been talked about, but this was what'd you say 94, 87 when Watchmen comes out. These things were relatively, they weren't fresh, but they were still new. Like they hadn't, the way that people looked at them had not evolved yet. I don't think. And so to bring that forward, to use them in a story, is really cool. It's something that at the time I think needed to happen. That really pushed the importance of those previous books. You know what my favorite thing about Stephen Platt was? Or is, I guess I should say is. I'm not sure what he's doing these days. His signature.
Yeah, Splat.
Splat.
Yeah. I always got a kick out of that.
I get tickled every time I see that. Because it just works out so perfectly.
I really wish he was doing at least some covers or something, man.
Yeah.
His stuff is so fun to look at, man.
We should try to find out what he's up to, like where he's at. Maybe if anybody of our listeners know, they can tell us.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally throughout the years, I've actually at random gotten online and just Googled his name and try to find stuff that he's doing, and I've just not had any luck really finding anything. I haven't done that in a while.
I wonder if he just left comics altogether, or
that's the way it feels. I don't know. It's quite his artwork was quite something to behold. I still go back and look at it, and I'm just like, wow.
Can you imagine inking his
stuff? No.
Like how many bottles of ink do you think they went through per issue?
Yeah, I mean, as an inker, man, you were earning your paycheck as an inker with this guy, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
It is just filled with so much. So what were your favorite early 90s books? Just like I'm not asking you to qualify any of them. You don't have to give me like, oh, this was my favorite or anything. But...
Spawn, obviously. Now, if we're talking Image, Spawn, Pit, the Max.
Yeah, I love the Max.
Those are the big three. Of course, later on, the Darkness. I got into the Darkness. I was buying Rob Liefeld stuff, but frankly, I can't. None of them is except for profit.
Right.
I remember I was reading Youngblood. I read the Chapel stuff. I tried Brigade. I tried all the Liefeld stuff. None of it. I didn't enjoy any of it, frankly, at the time. Right. And I kept trying it because Liefeld was such a big name. I kept thinking, let me try this one. Let me try this one. Let me try this one. One that I didn't get in on that I should have was Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
I read Savage Dragon because my brother was into Savage. So I wasn't buying it. I was reading his. That one is the one that I think holds up better than any of the other first generation Image guys, frankly. Savage Dragon, I think, is the better story of any of them.
Yeah.
But that's, in the 90s, I pretty much walked away from Marvel. I never bought DC to speak of. And when all the Image guys went to... and started Image, I gave up on Marvel.
Yeah. I think a lot of people at the time did.
Yeah, I was mad. I was mad at them, frankly.
Yeah.
And I was just buying Image. I don't think I bought anything but Image for quite a while. I stayed on Wolverine for a while. But when they started doing some things with the character in the late 90s, and I just walked away. That was my last. What was keeping me in Marvel was Wolverine, and when they started doing the weird stuff with the character, I just.
You mean making him a dog?
Just. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There's so much they did.
Yeah.
But, the X-Men, I tried to stay on X-Men in the 90s, and it just got worse and worse and worse. So I did. I walked away from Marvel for quite a while, and then I just never bought any DC stuff.
Right. So I didn't become a DC fan until later. Like,
it was much later for me.
I'm the person who Bane is talking about. I accepted DC as when I was grown. Other people were born into it.
Yeah.
Like Bill Zanowitz, he was born into that.
Yeah.
I discovered it later in life.
No.
But for me, so I missed the early Image launch because age and stuff. Take some time to learn how to read. But going back, it was books like The Darkness that I really that is what pulled me in and made me a Silvestri fan for eternity. And from The Darkness branching off into Witchblade and some of those
Witchblade.
Yeah, some of those books that derive from that. I never got into Spawn, and I never got into Savage Dragon. Those weren't my books. By the time I got there, they were still going, and it was just like, for some reason that did not attract me, where it attracted a whole lot of other kids.
Well, we were all Todd McFarlane
Yeah.
marks as a kid. He came in and made his impact on Spider-Man,
and the Hulk.
and well, yeah. I mean, what made his name was Spider-Man.
No, it was. Yeah. I just had to throw Hulk in there.
Yeah, and I love the way he drew Hulk, by the way, because he looked like a monster.
Right.
But anyway, what got us on Spawn? Everybody was following Spawn because Todd McFarlane could write his own story and do his artwork the way he wanted to. So that was fascinating to all of us. He didn't have someone telling him what to do anymore. Going back and reading my stuff, I have different views on it
it's
now.
In the moment. It's of a time.
But as a kid, man, it couldn't have got any better. That was the pinnacle of comics artwork. Dude,
I was a big Cyberforce fan. I love Cyberforce, and you go back and read those things now, and it's not good.
No.
Objectively, it's.
I didn't like Cyberforce. I love Mark Silvestri, loved him, but I could not get into Cyberforce.
Dude, I was all in that, and like I said, that and the Darkness. I was like, and
Darkness I loved,
and I was at the age I didn't realize who Mark Silvestri was then. It was me, like, growing up and becoming a teenager going, hey, all of these things that I like, they all spun out of Mark Silvestri. It turns out I'm just a Mark Silvestri fan.
Yeah.
And I found that out as, a teenager and stuff like that. But, like, no, you give me Saberclaw, or whatever his name was, the guy with, like, the 3 metal arms on one side. I was just like fascinated by this. And then you had books like Johnson and Stroman's Tribe that came out, and it just was gritty.
Yeah.
And it felt kind of like my little white ass was sitting in rural Arkansas going, oh man, this is some hood shit. And I'm just like, no, it's not. but it was something I didn't see. Like, it was captivating.
Yeah.
And no, dude, I was all in, on that.
Have you gone back and read the first issue of Darkness?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's so over the top.
It is. So I bought the, actually our little local comic shop, they have a 50% off rack where people come in and sell you stuff. Last year sometime I came in and there was the Darkness and the Witchblade compendiums, the big, thick, almost an omnibus. So I picked up both of them, and I haven't read through the Witchblade one, but I read through the Darkness, from front to cover. And it's still fun. Like, it's not like you're not getting nuance. You're not getting anything substantive out of it. It's just fun. It's very sexist. It's borderline racist at times, but it's fun. Like,
well, it's just so extra.
Yeah,
oh my God. And of course, I bought it when it came out, and it wasn't until years later when I went back and looked at it that I realized Garth Ennis was the writer on that. Yep. Of course, I bought it, not at the time, didn't know who Garth Ennis was, but oh my God. And it is so Garth Ennis extra.
It is 90s.
When he crashes a Ferrari to kill a man, I'm like, oh my God.
The way that they handle, fuck, I can't remember his name, but the sidekick or the guy, his name starts with a W, where he finds out Jackie can't have sex, and so he offers to suck his dick.
Oh, I've forgotten all about that.
Like I said, it's rough to read, but it's totally distilled 90s. And man. Jackie's just like, no, fuck you, get away from me. The Darklings. So one of the action figure things I get up was the little Darklings.
Uh-huh.
Those are hilarious.
Did you play the video game?
No, I didn't. I missed out on that.
Video game's fun. It is fun.
But what I do have is the 2000 era HBO series that lasted one season, featuring Sarah Pazzini's Witchblade.
Oh,
and that is a particular type.
That was on TNT.
Was it TNT?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
I know it wasn't on HBO.
I was going to say, well, this would have been HBO pre like Sopranos. So I think you're right, though. I think it was TNT. It was one of the channels I didn't have because I had 2, 4, 7, and 11.
I remember when it came out because I believe I was in college, and I was like, they made a Witchblade TV show?
Surprisingly good at the time. Like, it does not hold up well. The very 2000 in its special effects, but you have to be in a certain frame of mind, but you will get a certain joy from revisiting it. So
I think you need to be in an altered state of mind.
Well, that might also be true. It's so bad it's good. It's one of those things. If you watch it now, but it's fun, and we should like watch that together.
Oh man,
movie night. Well, all right. I am going to. Did you have any like final thoughts on Prophet?
No, I have no final thoughts on Prophet other than when I read it at the time, it was very, very impactful. Going back and looking at it, I still get that feeling. Yeah, it's interesting that a Rob Liefeld story is this impactful. I have to say,
it says a lot about you as a person.
But it's like, I don't know. I'm a sucker I love war stories.
Yeah.
And Vietnam specifically has always been a fascinating conflict. So this little dark memory being set in Vietnam triggers a thing within me anyway. So I think I'm just a mark for that particular setting. But yeah, the most memorable Rob Liefeld story I've ever experienced.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
And hey, look, I mean, there's a lot I could say about Rob Liefeld, but we'll keep it positive. This was in the early 90s, and we didn't know a whole lot about VR and like the capabilities through PsyOps. I don't think at the time. So looking at what he's doing here, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty interesting. That it's one of those things like comics can. You read comics sometimes, and especially like from the 60s, and you're like, wow, they just straight up read the room and predicted some shit.
Yeah.
And that, you look back now where VR is used for everything, and it's like, oh shit, like he was right. So,
yeah.
We'll like shout out to that. Kudos.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about a book that's a little bit more contemporary. It's came out just here recently. It's a Marvel book. If you're not reading it, check out Champions. Champions number 9 specifically is the one I was gonna chit chat about. This is written by Danny Lohr with art by Luciano Vecchio, colors by Federico Blee, and of course Mr. Clayton Cowles from VC drops the letters on it. So if you haven't been reading Champions, number one, I love this book. I adore these characters. It's really fun. It's kind of it fills that Young Avengers void that I'm not getting a lot. But just kind of here in the past, they had this big event, and a little bit of the storyline that you're seeing right now is derivative from like Civil War. I'm hesitant to say derivative because derivative tends to be a term that it leads you to think bad thoughts. I don't necessarily think that's fair, but this does derive. It's using some of the same tropes. So there was this major event at a school. A lot of people got hurt. Kamala Khan got hurt, and from that, because the Champions were involved. The government created this law that made it illegal for teens to be superheroes. Where in Civil War, they made a law for no one to be superheroes. But this is specifically at like you have to be of a certain age, like smoking, drinking, or buying condoms or some shit, to get there. And out of this law that outlawed teens, they formed this government agency called Cradle that helps police it. The Champions team split. There was a lot of hurt feelings that got involved. Go check out all those back issues. But Roxxon, the company that it's always kind of the evil company in Marvel, they got involved, and they are trying to, they're trying to change their image, so to speak. They're using kids. They've created an app, and they're trying to brand themselves with the new cool company because it came out in some documents that they fucked up and they were doing some really shady stuff, as Roxxon is wont to do. And so they're going to use this app and these kids to kind of revitalize their brand. And they're not changing. They're still the same terrible company they were, but they're making themselves look good. They're almost they're code switching. They're hacking culture, so to speak. And in issue 9, you kind of see the culmination of it. You've got Nova, who's Sam Alexander, and Miles, and Riri and Kamala. They're all in their personal capacity, because they have their secret identities. They've infiltrated Roxxon a little bit, and they're using it to get secrets, and they want to shut down Cradle, and they want to really unveil what Roxxon's been doing and get this law overturned, because it's outlawing their ability to be superheroes. And so they've gotten in there and they've helped like hack everything. Of course, Viv Vision has come back into the fold because she was out doing her own thing for a little bit, but everybody's kind of made amends. And the thing about Kamala Khan in this is she's been kind of the face of everything, not because of, not because she's Miss Marvel, but because she was injured in the thing that happened at the school. And the law that got passed is called Kamala's Law. And so it's being, like, her face is being used to promote this illegalization of teen superheroes. The irony there being that she is probably one of the main ones and the biggest ones. So she has been reticent, as you might understand, and you know why, to really sign on to what Roxxon's doing, and they have been coming after her hard because they want to use her face to promote Roxxon and this new app and this whole re-envisioning of their position as an influencer. And she hasn't done it before because she wanted to, Kamala's reasoning was, I want to stay behind the scenes. I want to, my face is plastered everywhere. I just want to be a girl. I just want to go to school. I don't want my family involved in everything. And I was hurt, and so I just need my time. Well, she has to overcome that because the only way that they're going to be able to do what needs to be done, if the champions, that is to put these people on blast. And in order to do that, she's got to put herself in a position to where they give her the platform, so to speak. And behind the scenes, Riri and Viv have created their own app a little bit to serve as kind of a foil for what Roxxon has done and to let people tack into it. So in this issue, they've got everything set up, and Roxxon is throwing this big concert, right? Like they've got their own, quote unquote super group. I don't know if you want to call it a boy band or girl band or what. You can think, since we're talking about the 90s, putting together groups like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys or Spice Girls or whatever, this kind of formulated group. Well, they're throwing a concert with this. And lots of teens are there, lots of kids are doing their own thing. But this kind of the Machiavellian type figure behind all this woman that has been manipulating and using everyone has gotten Kamala to sign on and give a speech. And she's threatened her. It's like, hey, if you don't do this, you're never going to get to college. We'll just ruin your entire life. Here's the script you need to read from. If you mess this up, we'll destroy you, and we can do it. But besides the just sneaky, kind of shady, evil thing and the lies, she has got these mercenaries, these other, I don't know if they're teens, but they're young-ish super villains. One of them's name is Pyrite. There's a character called Not. There's somebody called Neo Edge. One of them's name is Fizzle. And you've seen these characters show up before in the Champions. But she's got them planted in the crowd. And she's going to, just in case, right? Like this is another, if Kamala Khan says the wrong thing, then you go after them. But because, our teen heroes are badass and the best at what they do, quote unquote, to steal a line from Logan, they have positioned themselves. They found out where these ne'er-do-wells are hanging out in the crowd, and they positioned themselves to stop him. So what happens is, Ironheart and Viv Vision hack the controls so that Roxxon can't cut the feed. And, Kamala Khan gets up and just gives this really amazing speech about how, she was asked to sign up and she was told to lie, and she wanted to help them, help Roxxon cover this up, and that they threatened her, but she can't do that. And Roxxon hasn't changed as a company. They're still doing abhorrent things. They're still tied in with Cradle, this government agency that is arresting teen vigilantes and is doing really bad things. And like I said, they hijacked the board so Roxxon can't cut the switch. And so, super evil, totally bad worker person for Roxxon calls in the mercenaries and is like, go ahead, take her down, get her. But, look, Wasp flies in and just nails one of them in the chin. Viv does what Viv does and, disappears one of them. There's some of these other teens that step up to take all of these mercenaries out where they can't do anything. And, at the same time, Kamala just rips her shirt off and has a T-shirt underneath it that says, "I'm not your law." She's not going to let what happened to her be used as a vehicle to take rights away from other people and to subjugate people. And, you know, on some level, this is really cool, and there's this really great, like, comeuppance moment for the teens. But, you know, this is also a real world stance and showing how people will in the real government and the real world will use black bodies and black experiences and brown experiences and people of color to push legislation and to push an agenda that hurts those same communities. And once you get the voice out there and once you get things realized, you know, the crowd turns around, they lock arms, they stand up, and they push back, and they're kind of just done. You know, luckily, and this is kind of the end of, it's not the end of this little arc, but it's wrapping up where they've been, and it's going to show how they move forward. You find out that, you know, the Senate took a vote, and, you know, Kamala's law was it was voted down. So they're not doing this thing where they illegalize team vigilantism. So, you know, Miles Morales can keep being Spider-Man. You still get totally awesome Hulk doing his thing. And the cool thing is, you know, in the past few issues, Champions had set up like little subgroups. So they had, you know, a team operating over here, a team operating over here. They're taking all of these people. They use this as a way to bring in all of these new characters. And they all just have a get together, and you see this really, really great spread of the Champions from all over the place. You know, Power Man is in there, the new Power Man, you know, who's a teen. You get Nova, you get just so many of them coming together and, you know, saying we did it. And you know, these are kids who used, you know, from Kamala's standpoint, who used nonviolent action to stop a really, really terrible government thing. And at the end of it, because this is a really cool, you know, I won't say an all ages story, but I think it should be, you know, you can definitely give this to kids. You know, the team kind of reconciles. They, you know, Sam and Kamala come together and they have a moment and they forgive each other for some things that they did that Sam did that kind of pissed everybody off. And, you know, the same is true of Miles. Are able to pull together. You know, the last few pages give you an idea of where they're going to go with it. This other teen who felt excluded, who felt left out, and who really felt like he was owed things, you know, hijacks some secret project that they were working on and is going to, you know, wreck shop. And so the Champions are going to have to launch into action. But dude, I love this. Federico Blee's art on this is just fun. It's dynamic. It's cool. I love seeing the way that he draws these characters. You know, these young people. He's got a, you know, look, I'm a 33-year-old dude from Arkansas. I have no idea what kids wear or why they wear it. You know, Federico Blee's got a really good sense on how kids dress and how they, you know, the weird funky fashion that you see kids tap into. The colors are brilliant and vibrant and just all over the place. It feels like a young, fresh book. It is energetic. It's got a great message, and, you know, sometimes kind of like, you know, I like reading war books. I want, you know, really deep, nuanced things that touch the soul and speak to the human experience, or break your heart, or just hyper violent. And then sometimes I just want like a refreshing story. You know, that's what I love about books like, you know, shows like Teen Titans, because I actually haven't read the Teen Titans, but, you know, books like the Young Avengers, you know, that focus on these younger characters, and they're just fun for me. So, dude, I can't speak well enough about Champions. They just do a really great job. There's this really great moment where Viv Vision is walking up, you know, to apologize to Riri, and she's just, you know, I come bearing cake, mini cake, and she says, "You mean a cupcake?" Yes, I come bearing cupcakes as this like token of an olive branch. It's just fun. So, if you want something lighthearted that feels like it's rooted in you know, for a younger generation. That's not for just a bunch of, you know, a dude who's middle-aged like I am can read this and really enjoy it. But, you know, I would love to see more teens pick up this book, because it really is written on a level that can be appreciated by both. So go check out Champions. And like I said, I think this is the end of the Killer App arc, or there may be one where they kind of culminate and show Buddy, who hijacked the science experiment, getting taken down and punched in the face, which is going to be fun, because I like to see bad guys get punched in the face.
That's their job.
That's what they're the best at. So plus you give me any excuse I can to read a book that's got Kamala Khan, you've got Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Sam Alexander just doing the thing. I'm all about it. So yeah, go grab this book and catch up on it. I think the first trade is out, I would say. If you want to check out where this all started. What is even more insane to me is this is considered the 4th volume of Champions. For a team that were just created 6 years ago. If that.
Wow.
They're already up to quote unquote volume 4 as opposed to just continuing the story. And I mean, so it really shows you for a line like this and for a book like this, I think they're really trying to map it out for trades and for for like the bookstores. To sell it that way, which is just, like I said, we're reading volume 3 of Batman right now.
Yeah.
And now we're at volume 4 of the Champions.
Yeah.
So still kind of weird to me, but that's just my old way of thinking about numbering and stuff.
Yeah.
That makes that weird. Legacy numbering, it's 46. So we've had 46 issues of the Champions. Speaking of, just because we've got a little bit of time too, speaking of bookstores, did you see where IDW joined the people making an exodus from using from using Diamond?
I did not.
Yeah, IDW is going with Penguin Random House. That makes, I mean, Image is still the as far as what we would consider the quote unquote big 3, which I don't like that moniker, but I mean it really is what it is. Image is still the only one left using Diamond. Now Marvel and DC have both signed deals with Penguin Random House. IDW dropped out. So who knows? I think it's another. I won't say it's the death nail, but it's another nail in that place's coffin, because they can't get Diamond now can't get Marvel books at the discount. They can give you the discount that retailers would get. They're being treated that way. So same with they don't, DC doesn't go through them at all anymore. So who knows what Dark Horse and Boom, what are they going to do? I don't, and I haven't seen the numbers, and I'm not claiming to be some type of business expert. I don't see how Diamond stays viable for companies to. I think they're going to have to reformat. I think that there is a way that they could avoid going out of business and reformat for being the entity that really gets out these small publishers. Like if Diamond becomes just the back of the book, which, hey, to be fair, is some of my favorite stuff. That's where I find the graphic novels and the weird stuff that I like to read.
Yeah.
If they reformat themselves and just become that, I think there's a way to stay viable, but they're not quote unquote Diamond anymore. Like they're all of these bigger companies are jumping ship. So I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah. Wow.
It would be interesting if they, and I'm sure that somebody in that office has discussed this. Right now, Diamond, Viz Media is that, they come out through Diamond, and so there's a section of the manga world that promotes through Diamond. It's going to be interesting to me to see if Diamond is able to expand on that and becomes kind of more manga based.
Yeah.
And doesn't just do like shoujo, or I forget what the Shonen Jump's more of the line for boys. There's a line for girls. It's some like Kojo or something like that, just to play on the Japanese words. But it'll be interesting to see if they branch out and do other manga publishers. I think that there's a pathway for them to do that and to make it a lot of money, but I don't know if that's what they've got their eye on.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's craziness. So I don't know. It's a weird time in the business side of comics. So, but it's from the outside looking in, and because I don't have any stake in the game and no money on it, it's not. So it's just interesting. But for people who are in the business, it's got to be at least nerve wracking, to say the least.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I have these conversations with the shop owner that we go to, and he's just like, I'm going to do what I have to do to get the books I need on the shelf. And
of course,
that's the right way to look at it. But
that's the only way to look at it.
Yeah, you would think so, but there's a lot of people who really hate change.
Oh, yeah. But if you're in what are you going to do? Not buy Marvel books, right? Or not? I mean, so
yeah, that's not going to work out very well.
Yeah,
you're going to lose a lot of business. So, well, all right, man. Well, this has been fun. Obviously we miss Craig, but we hope he is enjoying his birthday and having some fun times out there. And we will be back at the same time, same place next week. Hopefully all three of us will be together. In the meantime, if you want to jump in and conversate. Maybe you have deep thoughts on Prophet and you want to lay that out. Or maybe you've been reading Champions and you want to really talk about some of the cool stuff that's been going on and what they're doing in this book. Or if you just want to get into the nitty-gritty weirdness that is Primordial, or anything else that you've read over the past couple weeks and you want to post it up, talk about it. If you want to talk about what's going on with IDW, come to our Facebook page. Just type it up in the search bar. Southern Fried Geekery Podcast will come up. You answer a few little questions just so we know that you're not like, a Bangladeshi hacker. Who's coming to steal state secrets, or you're going to send us an email talking about you're our lost uncle and you want to help get money in the country. They're really simple questions. You don't have to study for them. It's just like who's your favorite Spider-Man or something like that. I forget what they are. But you can come be part of that conversation. We would love to hear from you. We would love to see what you're interested in. Video games, movies, talk about it. It's a great place to do it. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And then hit us up with an email if you've got something that you want to conversate about. Maybe you've got a project, or maybe you're not into social media and you don't want to put something on social media. Totally, I get it. Shoot off an email to us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And we'll hit you back. We'll do our best. We're all busy, so bear with us in these complicated and complex times. But in the meantime, while we're doing all that, plan yourselves accordingly and get ready to pick up some books next week. Because as always, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, new comics will drop into the market. However you get them is the right way, as long as you pay for them. And we want to give you guys an idea of what we're going to grab this next week. So, Matt, tell me a book that you're going to read.
Well, I want to recommend a book I've already read.
Okay.
I want to recommend people pick up from Vault Comics. Barbaric #3 is being released again. This is a black and white format. Of course, this is the book by Michael Morrissey and Nathan Gooden.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm telling you about this book again is this book just went back for a 4th printing.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an indicator of the quality of this book. So those of you that have been holdouts on this, I want to recommend once again to pick this up. I've turned a lot of people onto this series, and every single one of them has not only told me that they enjoyed it, but that they absolutely love it.
Right.
So there's my one probably last recommendation for the series. Probably not, but probably.
And then the trade will come out.
Yeah.
And we'll promote that. Dude, now second.
Yeah.
I adore this book. I love most things that are coming out from Vault. Some friends of ours make fun of us because it's, I basically order the Vault catalog.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good stuff coming out from Vault.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff. And this is at the top of that pile. It's so fucking good. Fucking Axe is going to rehab. I love it. I want to tell you guys to pick up, it's a graphic novel that's coming out next week that I'm interested in. This is called Other Boys by Damian Alexander. And so this is kind of an all-age, coming-of-ages kind of story. It's one of those, human experience kind of things. Damien's the new kid at school, and he has a foolproof plan to avoid the bullying that's plagued him his whole childhood. He's going to stop talking. He's just going to take a vow of silence. So starting on the first day of 7th grade, he's not going to utter a single word. But this doesn't work out so well. His classmates can tell there's something different about him. His family doesn't look like the kind of family on TV. His mom has passed away. His dad is absent. He lives with grandma and grandpa, and they don't have a lot of money. So Damien does things that, boys aren't really supposed to do culturally. Like, he plays with what he has available, or because he likes them. So he'll play with things like, the Barbies instead of G.I. Joes, and kids tease him about it and, emasculate him. And, come to find out there are some things behind Damien that also make him different, and it's this realization. So it's not hard to figure out. This is a queer-themed, queer-related story. It's a coming out, or at least a acceptance story. So I definitely want to check this out. I think these kind of stories are important, especially as as the world is becoming more accepting, and as those stories are getting out there. I'm a fan of the Harvey Milk moniker, that once people realize they know us, they can't fear us. And so I think this helps. I certainly wish there had been books out like this when I was that age, where I knew I was different and knew I had a secret and couldn't put a word to it. It would have saved me a lot of grief. So I think it's going to be like $15. So go check this out. It comes out from First Second, which is a really great publisher who does a fantastic job getting these stories out into the world. So that's my recommendation. So we got anything else we need to cover?
Covered it all, I think.
Yeah, I think we did work. Good work. I feel good.
Yep.
Hyped. All right. So you crazy kids have fun. Take care of yourself. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. And be kind to one another. And until next time, go forth and love some comics.
Happy birthday, Craig.
Happy birthday to Craig. I didn't mean to take that the Marilyn Monroe route, but it did. That happened.